It is Monday, June 24th, 2024, and this is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by our friends over at Factor. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Tommy, along for the ride as well. We are back from Floorball 3. We got back last night. My voice, I think, is still somewhere in New Jersey, though.
You sound okay to me, Chris, and I brought my glove out here because I've been in hockey mode. Big game tonight if you're a hockey fan, but I had to get back into baseball mode, so I got the glove out here, and I'm excited to talk some ball because while we were out there in the warehouse, a lot of great series happened and some interesting things around the league went down.
Yeah, we'll look back. We'll look ahead. We're going to start off with a tip of the cap and a pair of fan bases that haven't had a ton to cheer about this year. I think they really enjoyed their Sundays. The 1974 Oakland A's, 50th anniversary of their World Championship team. Those remaining members, they got together probably for the last big celebration we're going to see in Oakland. I thought that was awesome, Plouffe.
It is awesome to see all those guys out there together, and that's what we're seeing every single time a team goes into Oakland this year. It's somebody saying, hey, this is the last time we're going to be there, and you start to think about all the history that's happened there, the players that have come through there, and it's a rich history, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, 3 titles early in the 70s and celebrating that last one, pretty darn special. That's why I'm wearing the Oakland A's lid today. And then before Sunday Night Baseball between the Mets and the Cubs, Ryne Sandberg on the 40th anniversary on the Sandberg game, they unveiled his statue. Really touching moment. Not only were his kids and grandkids there to celebrate, but, you know, he had announced recently that he was cancer-free. I just think all of this coming together. And did you see the shot of the Cubs players like coming out of the clubhouse and looking over the side of the stadium to check this out? Like that's the best stuff you can see.
That statue, by the way, is awesome. Sometimes I get worried about statues. Like, how are they going to look? That thing is badass. And Ryne Sandberg's a grinder, dude. Like, he was later on in my career when I was toiling up and down in AAA, he was a manager there. Like, he just loves the game. But, yeah, very cool to see and very deserving, of a statue.
Yeah, he was the 1984 MVP. Got the Cubs to the playoffs this year, got them to the brink of making the World Series. Blew a lead against the San Diego Padres.
I got a Ryne Sandberg signed jersey.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Good one, man. All right, so let's talk about that game. That'll hit leadoff on this show. Mets were clinging to a 3-run lead. They brought in their closer. We thought we were going to get another solid Edwin Diaz performance like he has since he came off the injured list. Instead, he never got to throw a pitch. That is because they looked at his hand and said, you're out of here. So now, dude, pending an appeal, is facing a 10-game suspension. Now, remember, closers get checked on their way in. Umpire and crew said, no. There's just too much of this crap. Here's Edwin Diaz after the game.
I just say I use the same thing always. I rub rosin, sweat, and I put my hand on the dirt a little bit because I need to have some grip on the ball. So that's why I was explaining to them, but they said it was too much thick. I understood, but at the end of the day, I was using rub rosin, sweat, and put my hand on the dirt.
So he's now the 8th player to get nailed for this since the new rules went into effect. Are you still confused by what's going on, or are you okay with how that transpired last night?
No, I'm still confused with it all, and I think a lot of it, we talked about this before, like, you know, having the umpires having to go out there and be like substance experts doesn't make any sense, and it's all kind of like subjective. Though this felt to me like it was too sticky, and again, I'll reiterate my stance on this is this: if a pitcher isn't doing anything to performance enhance, which means basically like increase his spin to get to a point where it is performance enhancing, I don't care what you do, as long like you need to have grip on the ball. I understand that. When it starts getting into the 300 plus RPMs change, then, you know, we kind of have an issue with it. But what are you supposed to do if you're a pitcher? Like if anyone's ever felt like a brand new baseball, I know they rub them up, but like the rub it's not tacky. It just gets the sheen off a pearl. It doesn't make it tacky. It doesn't make it, you know, you can't grip it great. That's why there's rosin behind the mound. So if it's actually what he's saying, you have rosin and sweat and he rubs the dirt. The dirt's like clay on the mound. So, I think when initially I saw the picture, I was like, that picture looks gross. Like, that doesn't look like that. But now I think like, shoot, you show me a picture again, and I'm kind of out on the explanation. I was saying like maybe that is like the clay, and sometimes the clay can be that gray color. That looks so bad. But if I'm taking him at his word, Chris, and it says rosin and whatever, and we have the numbers, the data numbers, and it's not increasing his spin, then I think it's crazy that he's getting suspended for 10 games. But every time I look at that picture now, I'm like, is that what that was? But to answer your question, are we handling it the right way? I don't think so.
So Edwin said he rubbed his hand in the dirt. I suppose that's the way your hand could look if you have rosin on it. And it does look like he's been digging in a chimney. Yeah, it looks like he's been digging in a used chimney, to be honest with you, and putting the coals out with his hands. I want to believe him. I do, in part because all closers know they are getting checked on their way to the mound. They know it. The other relievers, for the most part, they get checked when they're done, right? So if they come in the 6th inning, they know they're going to get it on the walk away from the mound. But closers are going to get checked because presumably once the last out is over, there's nothing to check for. There's not going to be any penalty. Here's Vic Carapazza. He is the crew chief. Pool reporter, no cameras after the game. So one reporter, no cameras. I touched his hand, grabbed his hand. The substance was extremely sticky, discolored. It definitely wasn't rosin and sweat. We checked thousands of these. I know what that feeling is. This was very sticky. You know what he didn't say? What it was. How we? I mean, you're okay with suspending guys. What?
Aren't they? Did they take a sample and they're going to send it off or not? They're not doing that.
We thought that was part of the process. We don't ever hear what it is. So
is the league going to find out?
I don't know. We don't know any of this stuff. Like this will probably be the last of it, other than suspension upheld, and he's going to start serving his 10-game suspension Tuesday before the Yankee game, is my guess. So that's probably all you'll hear. What we need to hear is what it is, so that we have a better understanding of this. Like, if not, we're just going to do this every time the next guy gets popped, and then it just makes the league look ridiculous. Like, wouldn't you want to get out in front of this stuff? Just tell me what it is. If they're supposed to be experts on what it can't be, then tell me what it is.
You hit it right there, Chris. They're not experts in this, and nor they shouldn't have to be. Like,
right.
There's got to be a better way to go about it. Something automated. You put your hand over it; it can read it. We have AI people. I hate AI for the most part, but it'll be great for a situation like this.
And here's why I really have a problem with it. You're suspending a guy for 6% of the season. Mets have gone on this really nice run to get back within, I think, of the game of the wild card.
13 now they've got June,
2 against the Yankees, 3 against the Astros, 4 against Washington, and 1 against Pitt if the suspension starts before tomorrow's game. Like, you want to make sure that you're 100% accurate. This isn't deciding whether or not a guy intentionally threw at somebody, and there's kind of a sliding scale on that. It either is rosin and sweat and dirt, or it's not rosin and sweat and dirt. And at the end of the day, I'm not comfortable with Vic Carapazza deciding the fate of the Mets reliever.
No, I agree with you. Can he appeal this and just pawn it off? It seems like a pretty important stretch of games, especially when they're hot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of people in the chat that are saying, well, what about the hand washing? Like, we've seen the hand washing a few times. Yes, that's another problem.
Clay Holmes had to do that, right? They said, go wash your hands. I don't know, man. The picture does not do him any justice. I will say that. Is that like enhanced or something, or is that just what his hand looked like?
I don't know. In the world of AI, I don't know if that's like from a horror flick or if that's actually Edwin Diaz's hand. But all I know is that if I'm inviting Edwin over for dinner and he seems like a lovely young man, I'm going to make sure he's washing his hands a couple of times before we're chowing down. That's all. Okay. AL West is getting more interesting. Astros swept the Orioles as Fromber pitched 7 strong on Sunday. That was the same day that the world champion Texas Rangers watched the season debut of one Max Scherzer. He pitched 5 shutout innings against Kansas City. So check your standings. Houston 6 behind Seattle, and Texas is 6.5 back of the Mariners. Which of those two trailing teams has a better chance at leading the division at some point the remainder of the year?
I think it's got to be the Astros, Chris, and maybe they just beat it into me for how good they've been over the last, decade. But there's some things really going right for them. Alex Bregman is kind of who he normally is, or even a little bit better. In June, he's got a 1 OPS, or it seems the last 30 days, he's got a 1 OPS. So that's something they desperately needed from him. If you look at yesterday's game, it was kind of like typical. I have this written down in my notes from talking baseball, or this typical Astros baseball, man. Framber goes out and does his thing. Jose Altuve, first pitch that he sees, homer, 1-0. So like the things that were plaguing them early on, the offense not really going. I think they're getting that back. Mauricio Dubon's doing really well. If you have Bregman performing the way he's going to perform, Alvarez and Tucker will be back when he's off the IL doing it. I think there's like less holes. Like even the bullpen that was giving them problems at the beginning of the season, I don't foresee that going on throughout the year. I think that eventually everything will line up for the Astros, and we'll see them kind of be the team that we've grown to expect, because the roster is by and large the same. Like these guys, they do it. So I would put my chips on the Astros for sure. Not saying the Rangers can't do it, but if I was a betting man, I would go Astros.
Yeah, this was far and away the best set for the Astros, best series, right? They outscored a really good Baltimore team 27-13. I believe they did not trail after any full inning throughout this series. That's pretty damn impressive.
No, and even the first game that ended up 14-11, they were actually up 14-3 in that game.
Yeah. So they are playing much better. Here's the thing that scares me about both teams. And I guess I really want to start with Max Scherzer, because here is his explanation of where he is physically after yesterday's start.
I do feel fatigue in my, I was feeling my forearm, arm kind of fatigue. I just don't know how I'm going to recover from this. That's been the, issue I've been at hand here. So, after the fifth inning, it felt like we got enough work in. I felt like we're in a good spot. And, that was kind of my line. That was as far as we could go today.
So this is the thing with both the Rangers and the Astros. If they are to get back in this thing and leapfrog Seattle, which in my opinion probably has the best starting rotation in the American League, you're going to need these guys. And I'm talking about Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, who just started throwing this past week, and he said there's no timetable on this, but I'm feeling really good. Lance McCullers, Justin Verlander, like all of these guys. You know that the Astros only have 4 healthy starting pitchers on their 40-man rotation, on 40-man roster? 4. Yeah. That's a nightmare, dude. So that is okay when you've got the sort of off days that they have coming up. You can make that sort of stuff work as long as nobody gets injured. They even brought up a young kid who they didn't want to start his clock. I just read about Jake Bloss is his name. He made his major league debut, and he hurt his shoulder in his major league debut.
Yep.
So there's somebody with an Astros voodoo doll around there. This is the problem, because Seattle's 5-man rotation has been pretty much intact all year long and really, really good. They lead all of baseball in June ERA, top to bottom. So I think it's going to be tough for either of these teams to catch them. If I had to give an answer, I would say Texas, but just slightly over the Astros.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I understand their starting pitching problems. That definitely needs to be addressed. Where would this team be without Ronel Blanco?
Oh, my God. Goodness. Yeah, he was great again. By the way, I was going to bring this up. Do you have a problem with Blanco, who was one of the guys, right? He had the substance, and he got suspended 10 games. Do you have a problem with a guy who's been suspended this season, not for throwing at somebody, but rather for whether he intentionally cheated the system or not? I mean, I guess that's the way it goes down on his record with making the All-Star team.
If it's like, again, was it performance enhancing? Like, that's what I keep going back to. Right. You know what I mean? Like, he's been.
I don't know how to answer it.
Now he's getting checked, probably more closely or intently than before, and he's still throwing out bangers. So, I don't have a problem with him making the All-Star team. No, look, you know how I am against starting pitchers. Like, any piece that you leave, I'll eat it. But I just don't understand this whole thing, dude.
I know it's become very confusing. I think they felt like when they came out with the rule that it would clarify things. I think in typical baseball fashion, it has made it more and more confusing. Quick shout out to our friends over at SeatGeek for helping us out and sponsoring today's baseball today. Of course, baseball, we are smack dab in the middle of the season. And so SeatGeek is helping us out and hooking us up with a new special offer. Anybody, and I mean anybody, can use the code today10, 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek. That's whether you're a rookie downloading the app or you're a returning customer. And with the baseball season officially in full swing, and you got artists like Drake and Bad Bunny and many more on tour, you already know that SeatGeek is the best place to get your tickets. They have more than 70,000 events daily. I'm talking about sporting events, concerts, festivals, and oh so much more. And no matter how many times you've actually bought tickets using that SeatGeek app before, today 10 is going to get 10% off your next order. So it's very simple. Find your phone. I had to look around, but I found mine.
Got it. Great
Download
job.
it. SeatGeek, today 10, 10% off your next order. What are you waiting for? Do it now because the offer is only available for a limited time. Code is today 10, 10% off your next order. Got it?
I'm going to a concert on Wednesday. Got my tickets
know.
off SeatGeek.
I know. Go have fun. Are you going with Stafford?
Amongst others, yes. Why is it so weird to you that he's my friend? He's just my friend.
It's not weird. I just think it's adorable.
Just two strikingly handsome ball players.
Okay.
I'm a hockey guy now anyway. Whatever.
Baltimore Orioles, after they got beat up down there in Houston, they now limp home to face one of the hottest teams in all of baseball.
Hold on pitches. There's a fly ball to deep right field. Springer back on the track. He's out of room. It's out of here. Stephen Quad delivers on cue.
Did you think that we would ever be hearing about a home run from Stephen Kwan? My gosh, what a dude. You're awesome, Kwani. So all season long, we've pretty much said that it's the Yanks and Baltimore atop the AL food chain. But with Cleveland now going into Baltimore tonight for a 3-game set, how close are the Guardians to those two squads?
I still don't think they're that close to them. And I like the Guardians. I think they're just different. I mean, the Orioles are like, in the past 30 days, they lead in homers and stolen bases. I think the Orioles they might be on the A tier and everyone else behind them, if I'm being honest. And I know what just happened in Houston. I understand that, people. But if you're just looking at the season on a whole, they've been there. I think the Guardians are doing it in a great way. I love the type of baseball that they play. I don't know if I've said on this show before, but I just mentioned on Talking Baseball, like they remind me of those 14, 15 Royals teams and this is how they're winning baseball games. Get a lead early. Get it to your bullpen. That's it. That's the recipe, right? That's what they did in this series. So you mentioned all the time, okay, is it a sustainable model? I think it can be a sustainable model if, voters giving guys proper days rests and he's understanding lanes and making sure that he's not overusing the bullpen. Now, a lot of that has to do with what the starting pitching is doing, but like their offense is legit. Like Stephen Kwan, I think it's a great lesson for young hitters, in my mind, especially like youth players. Like put the bat on the ball first. Like everything else will follow that. If you can find ways to improve your bat to ball skills, like other things will come. You can't go the other way. It's so hard to try to do all these things, hit for power, and then try to find your bat to ball skills. Find your bat to ball skills and good things will happen. I'm happy for him. Bo Naylor getting it going. I don't know. Like, I just don't put them on the same tier as those teams yet, Chris. I think they're a very good team. I think that they can get into the playoffs. I think they can go on a run. I think that they have the capability to win a World Series. I do. But I won't put them on that same tier yet. So, again, I think that if you're asking me top 5 teams in the AL, I don't know if I've ever done this, but I would say Baltimore. I would say New York. And then after that, it does get tough. But I'll say Seattle. I think I'll say Red Sox, Mariners, Guardians.
Not Twins.
They're on the way up. They need some things.
So the Guardians have been fascinating because last year they were last in homers, either 29th or 30th. But look at them this year. They're top 5 in runs, top 10 in OPS, OPS, top 10 in homers. Some people say, well, it's the reconfiguration of the stadium. Well, last time I checked,
you're using top 10 very loosely. I mean, there's like 9 and 10.
I'm sorry, is 10 in the top 10?
I know. They're bottom 10, bottom of the top 10.
That's still top third in the league, which when you compare to where they were a year ago, that's a significant leap. So I do think that the offense is legit, even though it's pretty much like it's 4 guys, right? It's Quan, Jose, Naylor, and David Fry that's really been carrying them. And occasionally there's some other guys like a Will Brennan will get hot. A Tyler Freeman has had some nice runs.
They've done that all throughout the year where like one of those other guys will be hot.
And that's a key for them. The reason I'm hesitant as a Cleveland fan is because the bullpen has been used so heavily the first half of this year. And that's no fault of Stephen Vogt. I mean, he has done and worked the equation and the model that gives them the best chance to win. The Guardians' quality start percentage, 28%. What?
Is that good? I don't think that's good.
Well, I'm going to give you a little perspective here.
Okay.
The Yankees sit at 44%.
Yeah.
That's 6th best in the league. Baltimore's at 40%. That's 11th best in the league. Cleveland's like bottom 5. Not good enough. So, yeah, maybe Gavin Williams gets back soon, but they're going to have to make a trade if they are really serious about this.
Okay, so you always say that about this team. You're scared about the bullpen usage, but I saw it with my own eyes. The Royals do it. I would love to know what their quality start percentage was that year. They had some guys. It wasn't like they were just a flat-out bullpen-only team. But if you are careful in the usage, like it could go. I mean, especially the way teams construct bullpens now. It's not 3 guys anymore. It's like you want to have like 5 high leverage guys and just go. And they have that.
They do. They have 5 or 6 guys that they feel comfortable putting in extremely high leverage situations. I think the difference is that when the Royals went on that run, they did make trades for guys, right? They brought in a Johnny Cueto. So
they did. Yes.
That's the thing. So if you're going to do that, then I might be willing to put him in the discussion. I think this will be a fascinating series.
Where do you rank him in the AL?
I would have him 4th. I think Seattle's 3rd, even though Cleveland did.
You put Red Sox below. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are playing great. I think we're going to talk about them on tomorrow's show, win or loss, because I think we got an interesting question in their series with Toronto. Let's do this one quickly. Braves, they take a series in the Bronx. They are 8-2 in their last 10. Now they're in St. Louis, who is just 4.5 back of Atlanta in the wild card chase. But how much of a gap is there between those two teams?
The Braves and the Cardinals?
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant gap, I would think. But I do like the Cardinals team. 24-13 since May 12th, best record in the NL. I think the quality. Oh man, this is going to be tough because I do like the roster. I think that the Cardinals have pretty much underperformed all year until they started this kind of run that they've been on. Now I'm thinking, okay, without Ronald Acuna Jr., that's a big separator for me in these two teams. I still think there's a significant a dip from quality of roster, but like the Cardinals kind of have everything they need to have. Like their starting pitching's been pretty dang good. Their Halsey in the back end of the bullpen's been incredible, and the lineup has like started to pick it up a little bit. So like it's not like they have flaws. I just think that the Braves roster is probably just a step ahead in almost every category.
It's at least a half lap ahead, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's not a shot at the Cardinals. I just think that, to me, one of the biggest surprises with or without Acuna is the fact that Atlanta's offense hasn't been close to what it was a year ago. I know their numbers still aren't horrible, but now Matt Olson has revved it up this month. Austin Riley seems to be getting it going. And I know that Cardinal fans will scream, well, hey, Goldschmidt has been a little bit better, but he hasn't peaked. Nolan Arenado, same sort of thing. Like all these guys outside of Mason Wynn, Gorman has done some nice stuff. And Donovan has done some nice stuff. But
Burleson had a good series. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you feel like there's a lot more room for growth there. And also, I just feel like the top two starting pitchers right now, Max Fried has just gotten it so dialed in. And between he and Sale, I know Sonny Gray was great yesterday and has been phenomenal
great all year.
And he's going to be in Arlington. And the rest of that staff has been good. I just feel like Atlanta is a little bit ahead in all areas except the closer.
I don't think any Cardinals fan would combat that.
No, but we were.
Well, they would say, "Hey, actually, we have a better record than them over the last 30 days." So
they have the best record in the National League over the last 5
more than
weeks.
30 days. Yeah.
They've done a really good job to get back in this thing, and I think they're going to be really in this thing in the National League Central still. Sorry about that, Brewers fans, like intern Tommy. All right, the episode of Baseball Today is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Summer travel officially heating up because we're in the latter part of June, and that means you're going to want to take in baseball games, not only in the city you live, but wherever you are. It's time to go explore those U.S. cities you secretly wanted to learn more about. We're even talking about your arch rival cities. And with hotels and bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, so much more at your disposal on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city, right? I loved doing this, particularly when our kids were younger, taking them to different cities, staying in great places, going to a visiting ballpark, and they check them off the list. Like you don't ever see your kids' eyes light up when they go to a brand new stadium. They're like, oh my God, this is so different than the ballpark we also go to. And I'll be continuing to do that because I get to go home to Cleveland and I'll go check out my Guardians. It's always fun. So we're talking about from hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts. Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. So book today, Booking.com, an official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball, on the site or in the Booking.com app today. Enjoy your travels. All right, quick one on this one. Jesus Luzardo, another injury for him. He goes on the 60-day injured list, which means he will not be traded this year, unless you're nuts and you want to trade for an injured pitcher. So which pitcher would you go after at the deadline now?
Well, I'm going to put a little something out there. We've heard that a big name pitcher has already they're finalizing a trade for a someone that's.
Who's we?
We didn't talk about this? Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about it. Okay. So I'm going to go with someone different than that. I think Jack Flaherty's going to get traded. And he might go back to the Cardinals. But I think a lot of people are going to be after his services. Strikeout numbers are up. He's having a great year. 1-year deal, whole thing. So I think that he's going to go.
I wholeheartedly agree on that. I think that he's probably been the least talked about guy who has totally turned it around this year. He's got his highest Ks per 9. He's well over 11. More importantly, far and away, he's got his lowest walks per 9. He's at like under 1.5. Last year it was over 4 on his 2 stops. Now, the thing that makes it interesting, I don't think there's any way he gets dealt back to Baltimore, who's dealing with starting pitching injuries, right? He won't get back to Baltimore. That didn't work out. I don't know what happened, if it was good or bad behind the scenes. You obviously would have more intel on that. But I can't imagine that one of the more starter-needy teams is calling Detroit about him.
It could be.
Maybe.
I think, I don't know.
A lot of
people are going to call on him.
A lot. The other guy that's really interesting to me is the one that pitched for the Mets last night, and Luis Severino. That was as good a game.
The Mets are right in it. They're not going anywhere.
I know, but
13-6 in June. 13-6 in June.
We agree that it is a seller's market, correct? Because there's so few teams that are definitely out of it. If you wanted to, I mean, you could sell as high right now as you want on Severino. Yeah. Guy hasn't thrown a ton of innings since 2018. He just hasn't. He hasn't made more than 19 starts in a single year in 6 seasons. So why wouldn't you sell high?
He doesn't want to leave New York. I'm a New York guy.
He's on a 1-year deal, bro.
I'm happy for him, though. He's looked great.
Yeah, he has.
The walks have come way down in June.
Last thing, we had our first ever pitch clock violation to end a game. Happened out at Coors Field. Kyle Finnegan was called for to the Nationals. How did you feel seeing history
I didn't like it one bit. Like, not at all. Because look, the Nationals are right in this thing. And if they look back and they finish a freaking game out or a half game out or whatever it is, we're gonna look at this game, Chris. Like, they didn't actually lose this game. It was a pitch clock violation. It's like it wasn't an egregious one. Like, I don't. How could anybody like this? How could Ryan McMahon like this? Like, nobody likes this.
Well, it was funny. McMahon said those are the situations you dream about as a kid. I think the bases were loaded, right? Yeah. He's like, and then all of a sudden I'm walking away with a game winner, and I don't have to do anything.
Who called? Is that Hunter Wendelstead? Is that who that is?
Well, in fairness, Finnegan went back and he said, "Hey, that's on me." Do you know that he's been called for 9 pitch clock violations, far and away the most in baseball? I don't think anyone has more than 5.
Dude. My Nats. Let's go.
Could you imagine
if they finish a game out? He's going to be upset.
That would be rough. Hey, quick reminder, get your factor question of the week in by Thursday. And I know that somebody in the chat just asked about that, how you send it in. Joshua, he's tried to submit a factor question on Instagram. If there's any way, you know what? Why don't you just try leaving it in the comments on our YouTube? I don't know if you can do it on. If you have X or Twitter, I mean, really, that's the best way to do it. If you want to try and leave it in the comments section on our YouTube channel, try and do that. I'm sure it'll be a great one. Let's go for it, Joshua. Thanks once again to our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, our amazing intern, Tommy Young. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday, most likely 11:30 a.m. Eastern for the live show here on Baseball Today, presented to you by Factor.